Hi, everyone. I'm Ed DeVoe, president of the New Jersey CannaBusiness Association. Welcome to our regularly scheduled Friday Lunch and Learn. Today is a really special day as we'll hear from two industry experts, and we'll get right to that in a moment. First, I would like to thank our sponsors, Argus 365 Security, Burton Trent Public Affairs, Curaleaf, Eaze, Garden State Greenhouse, Inglesino, Webster, Wyciskala, and Taylor, the law firm. I'd also like to thank Puffin, Entrepreneurs and Investors. I'd like to thank one of our new sponsors, Syska Hennessy, Construction, the UFCW and Hugh Giordano, and Weeds Direct. I'd like to thank our sponsors, and as always, I am coming to you from one of New Jersey's most fabulous restaurants. Today, beautiful scenery behind me, all hand-painted. I am at Ferraro's Pizzeria and Pub, located in Middlesex. Look, you gotta come here. I'd like to thank Frank Ferraro. The food here is fantastic. The specials out of this world. They're located in Middlesex, 275 Lincoln Boulevard in Middlesex. So again, special thanks to Frank and the bartenders here. They're beautiful. And just would like to thank you all. And yes, Gaetano, I will do Nork shortly. So I want to thank you all for joining us once again. Before I introduce our first speaker, I just want to take a moment and alert you that there will be a newsletter coming out, and we'll talk about the fantastic progress that the Cannabis Regulatory Commission has made. We are looking forward to the application portals opening up next month for certain aspects of the cannabis industry. So putting things in perspective, it took the state, between the legislature and others, 4 years to get the cannabis industry legalized, and ultimately it was up to the voters. And within a matter of months, from March until now, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission has been working diligently to get us to this point. So I do want to say, hang in there, things are moving, there is progress, and we look forward to that. Once again, I want to welcome you all. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our first guest, Dr. Moe Afaneh from Forian BioTrack. And Dr. Afaneh, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself and talk about your company.
Great, thanks, Edmund. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Moe Afaneh. I am the VP of BioTrack, and today I'm going to give you guys an overview of our full government stack solution. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this, and we'll just go over a quick overview. We'll go into the different patient portal, business licensing, seed to sale, Cannalytics, and then we'll wrap it up with real world evidence. So our Forian leadership is comprised of people who have come from the pharmaceutical industry, from technology companies, from data companies. Our two co-founders were also the co-founders of WebMD. Our CEO has years of experience working in the pharma world as well as in the data world. And my experience really comes from being a pharmacist as well as being in this industry for about 15 years at this point. Who is Forian and kind of what's our claim to fame? So we have a proven track record. We currently hold 10 government contracts from strictly medical programs, dual use programs, patient registries. We have a breadth and depth of experience of working with these states and seeing the industry evolve and the constant shifting landscape that is compliance in this world. We work very closely with our state partners. A lot of our approach is very consultative and giving them our experiences from other markets, connecting them with their counterparts in other states, as well as helping them to develop new initiatives. For example, New Mexico was the first state to adopt our Cannalytics program, which is to help them better understand what's actually happening in the market. With Illinois, we've done the opioid pilot program, and as well as a number of other initiatives we work with other states. So what does Forian actually do? So we do everything from the seed to sale, the track and trace, patient registries, analytics, data as a service, compliance, product utilization, macro level questions that facts and data can help answer. And that's really our focus, is how do we help the industry evolve to the next level by leveraging the information that we have been collecting for years and truly using that to create the blueprint to go forward. So the first system I want to talk about is our patient portal. So as you can imagine, this is where the patients, caregivers, and any other type of user of the system would get registered. We take very much a self-service type of approach. So everything is designed for both the state as well as the end user to easily use. We simply digitize the applications. They get fed into a dashboard. And what we do for the state is many states have requirements to respond to applications in a certain time frame, issue cards in a certain time frame. We create a dashboard based off of those specific timelines, put it at the top. We give them additional tools that help them kind of match similar applications if people accidentally created two apps or somebody was helping a family member. These are all different scenarios that we've kind of encountered over the years, and we've constantly evolved the system to account for these types of behaviors. We also integrate with the state's payment providers to make it seamless for the patients or caregivers to pay for things. There's a card template manager, there's an email template manager. It's all very straightforward, very drag and drop, and allows them to do both mass mailings, do both printing of the cards, as well as a number of other things I'm going to talk about here in just a moment. So as I said, it's very much a self-service portal. Patients, caregivers can log in, they can register themselves. Very easy process, fill in the boxes, who you are, your address, who's your doctor, any other specific information that's important to the state. Some of the integrations that we have in the patient portal are designed to help standardize the data and make it so the reporting that the state's looking at is much cleaner. And the way we do that is a couple different ways. In some states, we do an integration with the DMV system. That allows us to clearly identify who the individual is. It reduces a couple of data entry steps for the end user as well. Same thing with the physician, who is the prescriber. So we can connect into the state's medical database if it's available and validate who the physicians are. And this way the state clearly understands who are the individuals, who are the prescribers. And this also helps to create a digitized recommendation process that's easily captured and reportable from the state's perspective. Again, sticking with the self-service model, we offer these digital ID cards. So as a patient or caregiver, I can log in, I can pull up my digital ID card. I don't have to worry about printing it or losing it or any of those types of scenarios because it's simply on my phone. I can see what's on my limit, what was my purchase history, if I need to renew a card, if the state's notifying me of my card expiring in 30 days. If there's other requirements, some sort of background check or other business licensing that is incorporated into the patient getting their card, all that can be easily maintained through this portal. The next system I want to talk about is the business licensing. So similar workflow, and these systems are designed to make it easier for the state from a management perspective. The workflows are very similar. The process is very similar. As you can see here on the right-hand side at the top, we have these different buckets. This gets tailored to the state's kind of workflow needs. These buckets can then be assigned to specific individuals for whatever their task is, whether it's reviewing the applications or approving them. And then if we, click into one of these buckets, we can see a lot of information on high level. Everything from have they had inspections, and you can see the inspections here at the bottom are color-coded, which I'll show on the next screen here, but those tie to kind of scoring. When were they issued? Have they had an appeal? What is the message from the appeal? You can see the different statuses. There's also this switch capability. So if somebody on the state side is helping to process applications and they're working with a licensee who's having a question, the state individual can use the switch button and log into a read-only view of what that business is looking at as well. And that helps them to kind of troubleshoot. That same functionality exists on the patient registry side. So if somebody from the application team is helping an elderly lady and she's not very tech savvy, they can quickly switch over and kind of help them navigate the screen. The system also has the ability to take in paper applications and then associate them. Some states like that to have two kind of methods. You can obviously do mass mailings. The card template manager, the email manager is all just like the patient registry side. So super users on the state side can easily work from between both systems, and all the data flows seamlessly. One thing that we've developed for the states is this inspection checklist. The state can come in here and create what are the specific items on the checklist. They can give them a score, and you can see based off of the score of the inspection, it gets color coded. All this is easily configurable. They can upload images from the inspection. They can print these reports out. They can be published. Some states like these inspections to be published. All this is very configurable, and again, it's designed to streamline the process for the state and really get them out of doing data entry related activities and allow them to focus on more important tasks. Another thing that comes up is the law enforcement component. So we have this law enforcement verification tool that allows them to look up the validity of patient IDs, of individuals that work within an organization. These filters can be configured, and you can also grant law enforcement access to just that one module within the system, which makes it easier when we're talking about a separation of powers or if there's some concern there. The other thing that we obviously do in the system is we provide robust reporting. We provide the ability to create ad hoc reports on the fly. There's an audit trail, so you can review how the status is on an application have changed, who did those different changes, as well as a number of other kind of functions and features that the states have requested that we can design. The next system we're going to talk about is our BioTrack system, which is the seed to sale tracking. So we've touched on registering patients and caregivers. We've touched on registering the businesses and their employees. All of that data now moves seamlessly between those systems and then moves into the actual track and trace component. So you now know who the patients are, who the businesses are, and now we're going to talk about tracking their activities. So with our system, it issues a globally unique identifier that never repeats, even across any of our state systems. And we did that with the intention that one day the laws would permit these state level systems to communicate with each other and allow for seamless transfer of product. And we did that with one day that expectation becoming real. So those unique identifiers are automatically assigned to a plant or a piece of inventory or to a manifest. And we use those to track through the system. So at a cultivation site, at the point of inception, if they bring in a bag of seeds or clones or tissue or a mother plant, all of those get a unique identifier. And now as we pull seeds out of the bag and we begin to propagate plants, each one of those plants now gets a unique identifier, which tracks back to the bag of seeds that it came from. As that plant now matures and goes through its life cycle, and it gives birth to flower, other material, waste, those are new pieces of inventory which get a unique identifier, and that tracks back to the plant, which tracks back to the bag of seeds. And that's how traceability works. It allows us to move forwards and backwards through the supply chain to track products and information. And this gives the state the ability to do a freeze or a recall at the lot level. They can go all the way back to the original batch of flower that gave birth to maybe 10 different types of products and thousands of different units. This is a closed loop system, meaning that all the organizations must be identified and approved. All the inventory and identifiers are coming from within that closed loop system. So you don't allow them to bring in unidentified inventory or product that is not in the system. And this is kind of fundamental to how everything works, because now we have full control. The system is locked down. Everything is clearly identified. The other thing that we kind of pride ourselves on is this digital transport manifest. We have logic in the system that we've developed over the years that helps protect the licensees from going out of compliance, from doing things that are going to create problems for them. And one of the things we do around the manifest is there's a set of permissions and controls that are associated to the different license types, as well as to the inventory that those license types may possess. For example, A dispensary may only be allowed to possess finished goods that are intended direct for sale to a patient or to a consumer. That means that a cultivator trying to ship to a dispensary would never be allowed to ship them a mature plant or bulk flower that hasn't been packaged in a final manner. It also does checks to make sure that all inventory that's about to be shipped to a dispensary has been tested and has passed. This prevents any untested product from ever ending up on a dispensary shelf and potentially in the hands of a consumer. The lab testing module is fully integrated. And how that works is, as a licensee at a cultivation or manufacturing facility, I pull a sample and the state dictates what are the thresholds and how big that sample should be and what type of tests apply. That gets manifested over to a lab. The lab then does its analysis and uploads it into the system. Those results then filter down to the manufacturers and the cultivators in real time. So there's never a scenario where the students are grading their own papers, and that keeps it objective. This also creates accountability. There's a chain of custody, right? There's a level of coverage there. The other thing that we do that is unique is we've created this conversion window. And what that really does is it helps guide the licensees on how to convert from what we consider our lot products to our intermediate products to our final products or finished goods. And based off of the end result of what type of finished good we want to produce, the system is intelligent to know what pathway you should be taking. So for example, if you're producing an edible of some kind that's going to be consumed, the system knows you need to go through some sort of intermediate food grade solvent or some sort of cannabis fat or lipid based process to make an edible that's going to be consumed by humans. Manifest and transfers. So law enforcement, again, has their own kind of verification portal that they can log into. They can plug in the manifest IDs and see the manifest that is on that vehicle. And one of the things we do is we integrate our manifest and transfer capability into the Google Maps API. This then automatically creates the best route between those two organizations. It also allows them to modify that route in the text box, as you can kind of see here where it says travel route in the middle, and add additional notes. There's also the ability to do multi-stop manifest. So if they specialize in manufacturing goods and they're crisscrossing the state throughout a day, they can stage 10, 12, 20 manifests in one run. Law enforcement will be able to see what that route looks like, who are the drivers on the vehicle, what inventory should they possess, and they can quickly do their audit and move on. The other thing we do in the system is we've created these red flag reports that look at any kind of anomalies, whether there's a discrepancy between when the expected delivery time should be and when it actually arrives. Is there a discrepancy between what was shipped and what was actually accepted? And those get flagged for the state to then review and take further action as needed. One of the things that we pride ourselves at BioTrack on is really meeting or exceeding security and IT standards. We go through a yearly SOC 1 and SOC 2 type audits. They review our security protocols, not just what we have documented and we say is our policy, but they actually validate that against our actual servers. And we do a number of things in those regards. We have these little robots that log into our government systems every 60 seconds. They execute a series of commands, and what this does is it tests the API and the system is working as expected. It tests the response time against those API calls, and it lets us know. So within 60 seconds, we are alerted if there's any performance issues or issues at all with one of our state systems. We host everything in AWS. We adhere to a higher level of standard to create redundancies and backup sites. We utilize something that we call replication, which is exactly what it sounds like. We replicate the data from the production, from the live systems to these replicated sites. That's happening in real time. So the difference is literally fractions of a second. That is done in the event of some sort of disaster or catastrophic failure. We can easily now repoint to a redundant site that's in a different geographic region of the country. One of the things that we do is we do yearly disaster recovery and business continuity drills. And some of those are actually done with our state partners. So we go through the exercise of bringing down a system in concert with the state. What is our recovery time? What were the steps taken? How did we communicate? As well as all the business continuity components of messaging, switching our infrastructure from a support perspective from one geographic region to another, as well as a number of other activities. Cannalytics. So our data now has gone from the patient registry to the business licensing to the track and trace system. And now the track and trace system is collecting the activity of all the licensees and the business that they're conducting. That information now gets piped into our Cannalytics. One of the things that we do at Forian is we are also a big data company. So we have different data assets from the medical industry, from consumer data, from prescription claims data, and we bring that information into our Cannalytics tool in a HIPAA de-identified manner. And it allows the state now to have more data to compare and analyze the behavior of patients and consumers within that market. And as you can see, we have a number of different levers that we can pull on. Everything from financial profiles to lifestyle to education, to also understanding what is their consumer behavior. Do they like to try newer products? Do they have a preference toward vaporized products versus ingestible products? So one of the things that we can do with the Cannalytics is obviously look at trends on a macro level. We can look at filtering those by a number of different levels, zip code, demographic, looking at product categories, year to date, month to date. There's a number of different kind of comparisons that you can do. You can save kind of the views that you're looking at. You can email different reports. You can email different dashboard views. It's very powerful to kind of put in the state's hands. There's a number of heat maps, trend lines that you can kind of look at. Some of the questions that we get from our state partners is they want to understand how quickly patients are hitting the limit and what percentage of their overall patients are doing that, and what is the velocity of products, where do we have saturation levels, where should we issue more licenses, what is the demographic behavior. And I'm going to kind of touch on real world evidence here next, but that's kind of where we get to next is as we begin to analyze.
So Dr. Afaneh, I'm sorry. So this is a lot of great information, and I know that we're going to share your slides with today's attendees. So in terms of time, I have one question because you did address one that had come up in the chat with respect to being FDA compliant and HIPAA compliant, and I appreciate that. So at the end of the day, who are your end users? Is it the state? Are they license holders? Or is it just an array of end users?
It is everybody more or less within the cannabis industry. So we have state partners, we have the businesses themselves that use our commercial product that seamlessly integrates via the API into the state systems. We also have other initiatives with data as a service, with helping states kind of understand market behavior. So it's really a spectrum of kind of who the consumers of our solutions are.
Well, great. Dr. Afaneh, thank you so much. Again, there's a lot of great information here. We look forward to sharing your slide deck with today's attendees. This is fantastic, and the fact that you do in fact touch a number of people, a number of professionals and sectors within the cannabis industry. This is really great information, and I do appreciate you joining us today at Lunch and Learn. So we'll make sure that your contact information is in the chat, or at least available through the website, through the CannaBusiness website, which I'm sure it is. But again, thank you so much, Dr. Afaneh.
Thank you.
Great. And so what I'd like to do is pivot. When we talk about the cannabis industry and all of the potential partnerships and all of those that are involved, I got to tell you, I have been absolutely blessed, not only with those of you who are attending today's Lunch and Learn and have in the past, and those of you who are members of the CannaBusiness Association, who I get to, in fact, a week ago, had a chance to network with you. at Galloping Hill. But one of the most special relationships that we have at the CannaBusiness Association and that we share with the industry is that with higher education. And I am just thrilled today to be with someone that, you know, if I was smart enough, I'd want to be considered his colleague, but I'm not that smart. So look, I would want to be known as friend. So Rob, if you can call me friend, I'll take that. But I want to introduce to you Rob Mejia, who has just done an outstanding job in the field of academics and training when it comes to the cannabis industry. And so Rob, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for all that you do in the cannabis industry. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your panels, part of your classroom. I found it really special. So if you would please introduce yourself and what you do in the cannabis industry.
I'd be glad to, and thank you so much for such a warm welcome, Ed. I do consider you a colleague, a friend, and a resource, and much more. So in terms of my quick background, I am an adjunct professor at Stockton University, where we actually offer a minor in cannabis studies. And so I teach the preparation for cannabis internship class, I teach the introduction to medical cannabis class, and then I teach a brand new class I just developed, called Social Justice and Cannabis. And I believe we are the only college in the United States to offer that class. I've seen a few law and cannabis classes that have a section on social justice, but I think we are the only ones to devote a whole semester for undergraduate students on social justice and cannabis. And it's been an amazing journey with the students, I have to say. In addition to being an adjunct instructor, I am president of our Community Harvest, a cannabis education company. We create all kinds of cannabis education, whether it's posters, brochures, online content, in-person seminars, online classes, you name it. I am also a cannabis author. I wrote the Essential Cannabis book. I wrote the Essential Cannabis Journal. I write for Ever Cannabis magazine. And about a month ago, I started writing for NJCBA Insider. In addition to that, I also have a background in brands and trademarks in cannabis. And I also am a cooking with cannabis enthusiast. And so I host a number of events. And I was privileged to be able to testify about edibles at the Tuesday Commission, which was quite exciting, I have to say. I spent the whole day prepping and was actually even a little bit nervous, and I've not been nervous talking about cannabis in quite some time, but that was pretty cool. So today I actually just wanted to let people know how Stockton approaches cannabis education. And we have so many different stakeholders and such a broad audience. So the first thing is, again, we actually offer a minor in cannabis studies. So our students can major in anything. A lot do come from a health background, good number from a business background, and then any other major you can think of. But the nice part is they have to take 5 classes, including an internship class, and then they come out with a minor in cannabis studies. And I've actually had a handful of students come up to me and say, I am here at Stockton because I am here pursuing my cannabis education. So they could have chosen to go to any college they wanted, but they came to Stockton because we offer cannabis education. And our program's growing. So about 2 years ago, we had 6 graduates that had their minor. Last year, we had 19. This year, we're on the path to go probably 40 plus. I think we should get close to 50, actually, if you count some graduates who are coming out this semester. So the program is growing, it's strong, it's interesting, it's fun, it's exciting, just fantastic. In addition to that, we had so many requests from adults in the community who wanted to take the courses. They would call and say, I would like to take that medical cannabis class. I want to take the law and cannabis class, but they had to be enrolled. And you can imagine those classes get filled up pretty quickly. And so we decided to launch our continuing studies suite of courses that result in a cannabis certificate. So you can take 6 classes, including now you can also take the social justice and cannabis class online too, which might be particularly good for some people interested in policy, because it does include what other states are doing as well, which I found absolutely just compelling and interesting, the different ways people are going at it. So at any rate, we do have adult students that go through and get their certificate, or people who want to take a single class. If you want to learn about horticulture, great, take 1 class in growing hemp or cannabis. In addition to that, we do have big community outreach and business outreach. So we do free education quarterly panels. Our panel coming up on December 1st is actually on hemp. So if you're interested in what's happening in the New Jersey hemp industry, we're going to have a representative from New Jersey government. We will have Ken Vandevried from Hillview Med, who's been cultivating hemp for a while, and even has an infused hemp CBD drink. We also will have Michael Brown from Eternal Hemp, and his company works with post-prison population. I'll be the moderator, and I think it's going to be a very interesting panel, so please join us for that. Then we also do events. I mean, as Ed knows, we have been working hard to put together a fall career fair. This will be our third, offered on November 17th, Wednesday, 8:30 to 3:30. So you still have a couple days to get your tickets, but you better hustle. We have a very good attendance. We've sold a lot of tickets. But at any rate, there's going to be panels, networking opportunities. There'll even be students who've graduated who are working in the industry to talk about their experiences. We'll have a whole vendor area. So it's going to be a very vibrant event, and I cannot thank New Jersey CannaBusiness Association enough, and then also NJ Canna Insider along with Stockton. So those three parties have been working very hard to put this together, and we've put together an excellent program. So if you're involved in the industry, you're curious about the industry, come join us. But that's an example of an event. And then on this Sunday, November 14th in Atlantic City, we also have an event that goes from 11 to 3. It is free. You can actually just drop in. And we are hosting an expungement clinic, legal advice clinic, application advice clinic, and then we'll have some Stockton professors there too for general cannabis information. So if you're curious about getting in the industry, you have questions about what to do with your application, or if you've been harmed by the war on drugs and you need some legal advice, this is a very discreet, wonderful place to get your questions answered. So I hope to see you there on Sunday. So this is just kind of an example of some of the events that we do for the community and for the business entities who want to join us. Then we have another strand that actually connects with experts. And by that, I say that we are now being approached by a number of people who want to do research with us. Stockton does do non-medical research, so let's get some surveys going out there. We also, in April, launched our Cannabis and Hemp Research Initiative, which we are calling CHRIS. Part of the pillars of that is that we're going to do hemp genetic research and cultivation research and share that with the community. We're going to set up a standalone lab, and then we also want to train, educate, and work with post-prison population. So we're looking to join with nonprofits that do similar work, and together I know we can be much stronger. So that's what we do at CHRIS. And then finally, our experts are wanting to help us with our education efforts. So we have dynamic speakers like Ed and others who come in and talk about what their niche is in the business world, or what their experience is in cannabis. And that has been pretty eye-opening for a lot of students. We've had people in hospitality, compliance, dispensary operations, cultivation. If you name it, we've had them there, and they have really contributed and enhanced the education that's been available. I guess the final thing I'll mention is that we have a little niche for cannabis professors too. So last year in late April, we held our first cannabis curriculum convening. A fancy word to say, let's get cannabis professors together and talk about what we do in the classroom. So we held 11 different panels, including things on cultivation, medical cannabis, law on cannabis, social justice, what community colleges can do, what administrators can do. And then we talked about what's working in the classroom. What does business want from our graduates? And so we're going to do that again. And it'll be in either late March or April. And last year we had over 30 professors who showed up from places like Purdue, a couple of the SUNYs, NYU. We had University of Connecticut, just a broad range of people bringing in their expertise. And it was a fantastic 2 days. We did it all by Zoom, and we're going to do it again. So I know, Ed, by now your calamari is probably getting a little cold, but I wanted to sort of go through all the different ways that I think that Stockton connects with people in the community. And you can tell we're a big tent. So if you have something to offer or you need something from us, I'm easily found, and let's work together.
No, Rob, please. I love what you do, man. And thank you for sharing so much information. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. And that's why we do Lunch and Learn. People need to know about each other in this space, and what you provide is huge. So tell me, how did Stockton get into the cannabis education field? I mean, look, I've had conversations, and I know that you're aware of much of what we've discussed. And when we talk about higher ed and institutions of higher education, how was that lift at Stockton, getting them to say yes to something that, and on some levels, is still controversial, no matter how much we do legislatively, no matter how much we do regulatorily. How was that experience getting Stockton? Because now, when you talk about institutions in New Jersey, Stockton is at the top. I mean, look, with all due respect to all the others that we work with, how was that journey?
I think, as you'll find out with other schools that eventually will jump in, and schools are starting to expand their curriculum, which I'm delighted to see, but it took a couple brave administrators, and it took the NAMS department, basically math and science, that really pushed for the opportunity. And in part, it was because they looked out into the world and saw that there are so many professional opportunities that are available in the cannabis and the hemp world. And so we have an obligation to train our students to get out there and to get those opportunities. So that was part of it. And then also the students started asking about it too. If you look at colleges, there are a number of organizations that are independent that students are starting, whether that's the SMART organization, Students for Marijuana Research and Transparency, or Students for Sensible Drug Policy. But those chapters are growing. And that shows that the students have that interest. They have that desire to get out there. And frankly, they know that there are jobs out there, jobs that are professional, good paying, and again, can connect to so many different majors. I do think one thing that's kind of interesting is students will come into the internship class and right away they know I can be a cultivator. There's that middle step. I can do processing, or I can work in a dispensary. But part of what we do is really open their eyes to say, hey, you can do insurance, you can do accounting, you can do data collection and computer science. You can create websites. You can be creative and do artwork. I mean, you name it. And I would be hard pressed to think of any area that does not connect with cannabis. So really, to answer your question, it was a few brave individuals who were also smart and saw the opportunities and said, let's put this together. And they deliberately structured it as a minor. And we are asked every now and then, are you going to do a major? And the answer, at least in the short term, is no. And that's because we want to keep this as a very big tent. We want to invite everybody in there, because if you do a major, you're kind of trapped into two corners. It's either cultivation or it's science, which are fantastic, both wonderful areas. But at the same time, I like that we can invite everybody and give them all a chance to succeed with the major that they want to pursue anyway.
Thanks so much, Rob. When we talk about careers, and that's essentially where we want to go, right? This is not about jobs as much as it is about careers, because we do expect longevity in this space. I know you work with undergraduate students, and next Wednesday we do expect at our career fair and expo, we do expect adults or professionals that are looking to pivot from what they may be doing today into this industry. So what is your sense with actually being able to say that we're not just looking at jobs, but we're looking at careers? And what are your thoughts on longevity in this space?
Well, I think what's interesting is that you look at so many of the professions that want to get in. I'd have to say at any of the meet and greets, we see so many accountants and attorneys. They would probably have to be number 1 and 2 attendees. But everybody who gets in the space needs basic cannabis education so they can succeed. Regardless of what you're doing, you should know how the plant is grown, how it's processed, how people use the plant. But the prospects right now, I mean, we're in the infancy, and it's so very exciting to see people applying for licenses and the different ideas they have about what kind of businesses they're going to pursue, because they're looking at careers. They're also looking at potential for generational wealth. I mean, for some people, my dream is really that this will be a game changer, especially for a lot of the micro licensees and the social equity applicants, that I would love to be partially responsible, even this much, to help somebody on their way to having a career, and then also building something sustainable so that in a few years they have a brand that they can definitely expand on, or they can actually get 2 locations and they can start delivery. But to your point, the potential is there. You just have to be diligent about getting the knowledge, doing the hard work. And then the other thing I would say is building up your team and becoming part of the community. You really can't, in cannabis, I think it's nearly impossible to go it alone, and you also don't want to go it alone. So, I mean, embrace people around you that are experts. Ask them for help, build up a good team. Don't be afraid to ask questions and use resources. But yes, the potential is there for careers and for generational wealth. And that's where I'd love to see it go.
So Rob, kind of round out where you see where you see the industry going. I so appreciate your depth of knowledge and experience, and I saw some of the notes here, like when do you have a chance for you? Yeah. So just short of me asking, what do you do as a hobby? And you can't slip that in there. But what are kind of your overriding thoughts as to how New Jersey has done and where it's going?
Boy, that's such a broad question. But to your point, I do appreciate the work that the NJCRC has done. I mean, they were given a gigantic boulder to start pushing, and they have looked at other states to see what they've done, and they've taken some really good practices. So I do like that they have emphasized cannabis education. I think that's a big thing. I mean, even the fact that everybody who gets in the industry has to take a basic cannabis course that covers 8 points, including the history of cannabis, what a chemovar is, what the regulations are in terms of advertising. That's going to make the providers of the cannabis product more educated and better at serving their consumers. And then on the consumer level, they've asked consumers to figure out what chemovars are. Those are going to be up on the label. And basically what that goes towards is what the effects are. So I think that's good that it also pushes the consumers to look at what the effects are. And then also there's a requirement for continuing education. So if you've been in the business for a year, the next year you have to take eight credits, basically 8 hours of continuing education. So much like an attorney has to take a refresher course or an accountant has to take a refresher course, cannabis professionals will also have to take refresher courses, and they'll look at the new rules and regulations. So for example, right now, the edibles rules are just being formulated, and it's probably going to take another 10 months before we see what that's really going to look like. But at that point, if you get into the edibles business, I can imagine that in a year, that might change again. But to keep up with what those rules and regulations are, I think that's very, very important. I do think that right now, we're kind of at a moment of promise in New Jersey in terms of cannabis. And the promise is, and the potential is, that small operators will be able to get a foothold, and that social equity applicants will actually be able to get into the business. And I think those two things in particular are really what could make the New Jersey market something kind of exceptional. So I do appreciate that we can be an educated market, we can be a market for small players, and just the potential now is just amazing. So I think that we're on a very good track. I would actually like to see us do a lot more in the area of hemp. I know we were the third state to get the rules and regulations, but even just last year we had fewer than 60 cultivators, and most of the cultivators were kind of trying things out and growing an acre at a time, which is fine because you do need to figure out a lot of things in terms of hemp. I mean, as I said before, we used to know how to grow hemp before it got lumped in with cannabis and prohibited. And so we're actually learning some of those techniques now and sharing that knowledge. So I would love to see the hemp business make some more jumps forward. So I am looking to talk about that in December 1st. Because I also think that the hemp business can work and should work with the cannabis industry in a couple key ways. I would love to see the hemp operators get an opportunity to put their product into the cannabis market. And then also the second thing is, I would love to see a little bit more emphasis on sustainability and to see cannabis companies work with hemp companies to make biodegradable packaging, smaller packaging, more sustainable packaging. Did you know in Canada, when they launched their business, that in the first year, they produced an extra 100,000 tons of plastic waste? That just blew me away. And clearly we have a much bigger population. Definitely across the United States. But I would like us not to have to duplicate that, because anybody who's been in a dispensary knows if you go in there, and especially if you're a medical patient, and if the packages have to be packaged in just a quarter, or sometimes they're even an eighth, and you need an ounce, maybe you get 2 ounces, you're getting a lot of packages. And then if you know how to store it, you put it in a glass jar. So you've taken all those packages plus the package you brought home, and it's just a mound of plastic that you're then throwing away. What else are you supposed to do with it? So at a minimum, I'd love to see a recycling program, and then I would like to see the hemp industries work more closely with the cannabis industries, or vice versa. We know the cannabis industries have more resources at the moment and a little bit more power. So if they can bring hemp into the tent, I would love to see that.
Rob, again, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. I so appreciate all that you do. I'd like to thank our other guests from Forian, and what a great day today. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Argus 365 Security, Burton, Trent Public Affairs, Curaleaf. I'd like to thank Eaze, Garden State Greenhouse, the law firm of Inglesino, Webster, Wyciskala, and Taylor, Puffin Entrepreneurs and Investors, the construction company Syska Hennessy Group, the UFCW and Hugh Giordano, and Weeds Direct. And as always, coming to you from another one of New Jersey's finest restaurants, Ferraro's in Middlesex. Again, come here, say hi to Frank Ferraro, do the specials. It's fantastic. Everyone, thank you so much.